All right, welcome in everyone. We are tracking Hurricane Milton. This is the 8 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Winds are still at 180 miles an hour. It is moving to the east at 10 miles an hour. Look how incredibly powerful this storm is. You can see the eye there in that satellite image. Pressure is still dropping. Now, as of the 8 o'clock advisory, the pressure is at 897 millibars. So this storm is moving to the east and eventually will move to the northeast towards the Gulf Coast of Florida. It is expected to strengthen a little bit more overnight tonight, reach winds of 185 miles an hour sustained. From there, it will continue to move across the Gulf towards Florida. Those winds will drop back some. However, although that's good news for wherever this storm does make landfall, that there won't be sustained winds that are that powerful, it's still going to be a growing storm in size. The storm's going to expand. In fact, I'll go back right now just to show you. Right now, it's a smaller hurricane. So remember how massive Helene was? It felt like it took up half of the Gulf of Mexico. This is a small hurricane, a small and powerful hurricane, but it will have its winds drop back and it will start to expand and grow in size. And that means that more of Florida will feel the impacts from Milton. Milton is expected to make landfall late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We've seen these models slow down a bit over really for the past 24 hours. And so now the National Hurricane Center showing that cone making landfall Thursday morning, 2 a.m., right around that time frame, still as a major Category 3 hurricane with sustained winds of 125 miles an hour. From there, it will move across the state of Florida. So the center of the cone still right near the Tampa Bay area, then expected to travel along I-4, cross over the Orlando area, but there's still some uncertainty with this hurricane because models still are not agreeing on exactly where it will make landfall on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Some of the models you can see are on the north side of the Tampa Bay area. Some of them are on the south side, making landfall in, say, Sarasota or places like that on the south side. So where this storm does make landfall, that will obviously have big impacts on the Tampa Bay area and could change. For instance, if it makes landfall on the north side of the Tampa Bay area, that whole Bay area going to have serious storm surge problems, rather than if it made landfall on the south side of the Bay Area. Still, the wind, the rain, the surge, not good, but it wouldn't be as much surge likely, just depending on how far south it was. I say all this to say, wherever it makes landfall, we are still expecting the same sort of impacts. So this is what we are going with for the first coast area. For Putnam County, and by the way, for Flagler County too, winds sustained of 60 miles an hour, gusts 75 plus mile an hour gusts are possible. So that means that you're going to have widespread power outages, widespread tree damage. Also rainfall of 6 to 12 inches of rain. Surge, that would be for the St. Johns River area, could be 2 to 4 feet. So that could create flooding along the St. Johns River. And that's why there are some evacuation orders in place already. So for the surge, for the coastal surge areas, we'll show you a graphic of that coming up. But I do want to press home the point. This is why we're highlighting Putnam on its own for that storm surge along the St. Johns River. But for Putnam and for Flagler, we got those winds sustained to 60, gusts 75 plus miles an hour, rainfall of 6 to 12 inches. For St. John's, surge of 3 to 5 feet, winds of 60 miles an hour, gusts to 75 miles an hour, rainfall 7 to 15 inches. So we're really concerned about the combination of all of that rain and a storm surge as well. So for places like St. Augustine, if you get the rain and the surge, you could get some water moving into homes and businesses. So please watch out for that rising water. For Duval and Clay counties, surge 2 to 4 feet possible. Rainfall of 6 to max 12 inches. But again, if you get 12 inches and you reach 4 feet of storm surge, that could create water moving into homes and businesses. Also, gusts of around 60 plus mile an hour possible for Duval and Clay counties. Then for Nassau, Camden, and Glenn counties, you're going to see a surge of 1 to 2 feet. I'm going to show you a map though, that also the National Hurricane Center now saying maybe some of those places could see up to 3 feet when it comes to storm surge. So I will show you that. Rainfall 2 to 6 inches and gusts of 55 plus miles an hour. So prepare for some power outages, have your storm plan in place. Again, with those stronger wind gusts, we could get some of those power outages. And for Columbia, Baker, Bradford, and Union, if you get the gusts to 50 miles an hour, same story, especially because we're concerned with how for places over there, especially Columbia County, we have weakened trees, weakened homes, or structures. And so if there's anything that you see that is weakened that you can secure before the storm surge, before the hurricane. So for instance, there's a very large limb that's dangling. If you can get that down before this arrives, that's the safest bet, because gusts of 50 miles an hour, that could create some damage or cause some problems with those already weakened trees and structures. And then farther to the north, so for places like Ware County in Georgia, Charlton, Pierce, Brantley, we're not expecting as significant of rain or wind, only up to about an inch of rainfall. Wind gusts to 35 miles an hour. So really the nicest weather is for these counties. You can breathe a sigh of relief for the most part with this hurricane after going through everything that you have with Helene and still recovering. However, same story. If you have, say, a big branch that looks like it's about to fall, try to get it down now. Your gusts not as severe, but gusts to 35 miles an hour, we will still watch out for these weakened structures and weakened trees from Helene to see if they are impacted by those gustier conditions across portions of southeast Georgia. So just to put it all on a map, sustained winds at 40 miles an hour, you could get some bridges to close, and that will be the case up and down the coast. Then for places like St. Augustine to Palatka and Point South, you could have sustained winds of 60 miles an hour. That's when we expect widespread trees down, widespread power outages. Gusts even stronger, they cause more damage. So 60 mile per hour wind gusts, not sustained, but those gusts possible for places across Duval County into Clay County through Putnam County, but you could get gusts to 80 miles an hour, again, St. Augustine to Palatka and Point South, and that can cause a lot of damage. So please remember that you run from the water. So if you're at risk of storm surge and flooding, you need to move away, you need to move inland, but hide from the wind. Make sure that there's no big trees over your house that could come down, especially with gusts of 80, that can knock down some trees. And if you're hunkering down in your house, try to stay away from where those trees could potentially fall. As for the arrival of just tropical storm force winds, which is that's when you need to be off the roads inside, all preparations have to be done. They're saying tropical storm force winds likely to arrive after 8 p.m. So what we have been saying as of today, and this is subject to change if that hurricane continues to slow down some, but as of right now, we're saying the most dangerous time when it comes to the wind for the First Coast, 10 p.m. Wednesday night to 10 a.m. Thursday morning. So that 12-hour period, 10 p.m. Wednesday to 10 a.m. Thursday morning. Rainfall totals, again, maybe only an inch for portions of southeast Georgia. And then we'll see rainfall totals tick up, maybe a total of 4 inches of rain for portions of Duval and Nassau counties. And then cutting into St. John's and through Clay, you get up to 8 inches of rain, max 15 inches of rain possible for coastal St. John's, places like St. Augustine more specifically, down towards the Palm Coast area. When it comes to storm surge, starting with a look at the Fort Myers, Naples area, we're going to take a tour of Florida. Naples, Fort Myers, up towards the Englewood area, you can see their surge a lot higher, perhaps up to 9 feet of surge. And that will all, of course, depend on where exactly that hurricane does make landfall. But up for the Tampa Bay area, some storm surge up to 9 feet possible. And then that does continue up north a bit. Of course, we're watching our friends in places like Cedar Key and Steinhatchee closely because they have been hit with so many hurricanes. Surge doesn't look as bad there because it looks like they would likely be on the north side of a landfall, but still, they can't let their guard down, something we will watch. Over towards the Titusville area, the Space Coast area, perhaps up to around 4 feet of storm surge. And then let's really get into the First Coast. So here's a look at the map from the National Hurricane Center. Generally speaking, we are expecting 1 to 2 feet of storm surge, but if you see the orange there, that's where the National Hurricane Center has said, hey, maybe 3 feet of storm surge. So just keep that in mind. We'll say Generally speaking, for those of you along the Southeast Georgia area and Nassau County, 1 to maybe max 3 feet of storm surge. Then we get into Duval County, and if you get the surge up to 4 feet and rainfall totals of 12 inches, so really close to the ceiling of the max amount of rain that we can expect. It could be less than that. But once you combine 12 inches of rainfall with 4 feet of storm surge, that's when that water can come into homes and businesses along the St. Johns River or estuaries, the Intercoastal Waterway. So again, we'll closely watch out for places like St. Augustine along the ICW, St. Johns River. You have the possibility of some surge, especially farther south. So places like Crescent City and then over towards Willaca, we will watch out for greater storm surge risk there, plus the addition of more rainfall, which could lead to some significant flooding in some areas. And then that is the case for coastal areas like Palm Coast and St. Augustine as well. So besides that, along the coast, we're going to expect sustained winds around 50 miles an hour, gusts up to 75 miles an hour. And then I just wanted to show you the 7-day, because if you need something to look forward to, might put a smile on some of your faces. The better weather behind the hurricane. Just hold on. Friday is a much better day. Look at that. A lot of people have been asking me for the fall-like weather. There it is. Mornings in the 60s. Highs of 72 on Friday and then 77 on Saturday. So it should be fairly comfortable behind the hurricane if you just need something to hold on to and keep a close eye on. But for now, I'm going to start to wrap things up. Hurricane Milton, still an extremely dangerous Category 5 hurricane with sustained winds of 180 miles an hour, and it could strengthen more overnight tonight, and then it will make its approach towards the Gulf Coast of Florida, likely making landfall overnight Wednesday night into Thursday morning as a major and destructive Category 3 hurricane. We are here every advisory keeping you updated. We'll be back at 11 o'clock.